Morning. One of the most famous movies of all time actually had four of the six most memorable quotes from the American Film Institute are in this film, the most sticky, memorable bits of dialogue of all time. Casablanca has that. And in the dramatic end scene of Casablanca, Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman are being ferried in a fairly chaotic scene. The music is going, it's turning over really fast. It's dreadful. And they're going to be parted. Ingrid Bergman wasn't aware of this. Humphrey Bogart's made a decision overnight, which is actually for the good of both of them. But it's both sad, it's dramatic, it's romantic. It has everything going for this classic moment. And it genuinely is for the good of both of them. And Ingrid Bergman looks at Humphrey Bogart, tears in her eyes, and says, "But what about us?" And he replies, "We'll always have Paris." Those four words really sum up the kind of experience economy and why it's important to us and creating memories, how important it is, and actually possibly why that piece of dialogue is one of the most memorable things in cinematic history. So I'll explain really why the experience economy is driven by the need to create memories, why that's important to each of us, and why that's driving such a big growth in business and business opportunities. I'll also draw on a few examples of what we can learn in the travel industry from other sectors and other industries. Point out a couple of good examples from the travel industry themselves, and clearly there are some bear traps in all of this. You can't just leap on board. There are problems, so maybe I can help you navigate those, as well as then teeing up the next couple of days. So whatever happens, we will always have Venice as an amazing experience just to be here. This is absolutely a phenomenal event. So I said I'll explain something about why experiences are so important. In a world full of products which are immediately available, instantly available, we have so much stuff that we can get quickly, and people are becoming increasingly dissatisfied with that stuff and preferring to have experiences rather than that stuff. And Cornell University did some research to find out, well, answer the question, are experiences or experiential purchases more valuable and create a greater sense of enduring happiness than product purchases, right? And the answer is yes, clearly. But why? Why is that? There are three reasons. There are three reasons why we choose. Well, why we have this greater sense of enduring happiness. One of my team was doing some research for this for me, and she described to me the experience is like self-fulfillment. It's deeply profound. But the Cornell University research had 3 points to it. So the first thing that experiences create that products don't, well, they have this advantage, is that we can do what's called positive reinterpretation, which I'll unpack in a second. The second is the kind of immediacy to our sense of identity, who we are, or as Bethan's point, this self-fulfillment thing. And the third is social connections, social relationships, and how that's related to our sense of happiness. So the first of those three reasons why experiences are so important to us and create an enduring sense of happiness is positive reinterpretation. What that means is if I have an experience or an event, over time I'm able to retell the story of that experience or that event. And the researchers from Cornell, they asked people about the products that they'd bought, when they bought them, and later. And they asked them about the experiences that they had at the time they had the experience, and later. And what you find is, with products, people habituate to them, or they get used to them. And actually, they become, over time, as you habituate to the product purchases you made, a bit disappointed. I remember when I was doing my MBA at Warwick, I was surprised to see that all the car adverts, it was pointed out in our marketing lecture, that were placed on a Sunday. Why are these car adverts on a Sunday when all the car purchases are on a Saturday? It's because people have made a big purchasing decision and kind of regret it. They worry about the product that they've bought and, have I spent too much money on this? So the marketing money that was being spent on a Sunday was dissonance reducing. Anyway, the Cornell research backed this up and said your product's kind of, it fades, whereas experiences actually, because the rose-tinted glasses effect, our reflection upon that gets better. And actually the stories that we tell about the thing that we did gets better over time because it becomes more of a personal story. Actually, you get better at telling the story and get more into that. Even bad stories get told better over time. So there was another piece of research, I'm sure you're quite familiar with it. Is anyone here from Disney? Just want to offend anyone? Disney, the visit to the Magic Kingdom, there's a sense of anticipation. Actually, there's a big part of the experience economy is that sense of anticipation, which is much more profound than you get with products. Yes, clearly the people buying this big car on a Saturday will have a sense of anticipation about it, quickly disappointed on a Sunday. But people going to the Magic Kingdom have an experience of, I'm booking this big trip, I'm taking my family, and there's a build-up, and it's the same with many other experiences. In fact, another piece of research, to deviate slightly, people giving an opportunity to kiss a famous actor or actress of their choice are much more enthused about the possibility of doing that in 3 days' time than they are in the next couple of minutes. Because there's a sense of anticipation, sense of build-up, which actually, as some of us are marketeers within the travel industry, we should pay attention to that because there's a lot of value in that. There is in products as well, but it's far more enduring in experiences. Anyway, talk about the families that were interviewed about their trip to the Magic Kingdom. The happiest place on earth, boldly advertised there as. In the moment when people were asked about that, they were a bit disappointed. The place was a bit too busy, the food wasn't very nice, and it was too hot. They were the kind of the three modal reasons for people not being too great about their experience when they went to Disney. But the same people, when they were interviewed months or years later, had changed the narrative. This was a great family bonding experience. That is the first reason why experiences are a great business to be in, because your customers, we ourselves, will tell stories about it, and even those bad stories typically get better over time. As you know, things go wrong sometimes. Our ability to recover from them creates brand loyalty, and therefore that becomes part of the story. So even a story which is incredibly stressful about my travel arrangements which went horribly wrong can become an hilarious fiasco that I talk to people about. So there's the first reason why experiences create an enduring sense of happiness. The second one is slightly more psychological. It's this relationship to who we are, a sense of self, and Bethan's point about fulfillment. The researchers asked, if you draw a picture on a piece of paper and you represent yourself as a sphere, draw on the same piece of paper other things in your life, experiences, products, stuff, relationships, and draw it in proximity to yourself. And what mostly they found was the experiences we have are almost coincident with that sense of self. So it's kind of profoundly related to me. This is who I am. This is what I do. I express myself and my purpose through the places I go, through the experiences I have. And the third, and this isn't a surprise, it's well known, we're social creatures. Our happiness is very, very intimately connected to the relationships we have with other people, the sense of connection that we have with other people. So if we have a shared travel experience with our family or with others, then we just get that reflected benefit of those social relationships being stronger. Actually, if you have a travel experience not shared with someone else, but they have the same experience as you, so you go to Iceland and you see the Northern Lights, you go and you go, but you don't go together, but you've both had a similar experience. When you meet, if you talk about this, you have a sense of rapport, a sense of connection, which kind of fosters this sense of well-being and enduring happiness. So there are the three reasons why experiences are trumping products. So it's no surprise that people are choosing to spend a lot more of this discretionary time, and a lot more of their money on creating memories and great experiences. And we saw some stats earlier. Here are some more. This is the interesting one here, top left. 70% of consumer spending, a US-based survey. Since the late 80s, relative to other purchases, people are spending much more money on experiences. And the other interesting one to call out here is the Generation Z one here, saying Gen Z would get a part-time job just to pay for experiences. I don't find that particularly wow. But what's more wow is they're going to sell their clothes or their furniture to have a great experience, to travel, actually. There was another piece of research carried out by The Independent, and they found, clearly Gen Z and the millennials are our future and are driving changes in consumer behaviors and changes in business and are a big driver of the economy and the experience economy. But what The Independent found out was it's not just the youngsters, it's every age group and every socioeconomic class that want to spend more money on experiences, as indeed the Travelport survey that we all took part in when we arrived here pointed out. So that's somewhat academic. I'll bring it to life in what is the experience economy with a very small personal story. Those of you not sharp-sighted, that's me. This one here. We buy one another presents. This is not everyone who went on this particular holiday, but it's the first time we decided instead of buying Christmas presents, we'd spend our money on a family experience together in Devon, in fact. And out of shot are the youngest members of our group and the oldest members of the group because they weren't capable of surfing, and neither am I. But it was jolly good fun. It was jolly good fun, and we all got together to share an experience rather than give one another a load of stuff and create a load of waste and products. It's the first time we did it, and it was enabled by 2 bits of technology which really made a profound difference to that third reason, I suppose, that we're so happy. That's the kind of sense of social relationships, the connections I have with, this is actually my wife's family, so on my wife's side, my mother-in-law, and that group. Through WhatsApp. So Bradley, who's not in this picture, created a WhatsApp group, and we began to talk about the idea of possibly not buying presents and going on holiday together through WhatsApp as a group. And over the period of time, we then all plugged in, well, how are we going to choose, where we're going to go, what we're going to do? Well, they all like surfing. Riley on the end there with the paint's actually a surf instructor, so that's a good thing. Well, we're going to go to Devon. So how are we going to find somewhere to book up in Devon? Well, we're going to look on Airbnb because most of us we can check Airbnb and we can have a chat about what we're going to do on Airbnb, but we'll have that chat inside WhatsApp. I mean, it would be great if you could have that chat inside Airbnb because it would increase the kind of peer-to-peer stickiness of that particular brand. Right now, you can't, but there's a chance possibly for someone, or maybe not. But that WhatsApp group and Airbnb enabled us to find the place that we wanted, a place that was actually very nice, a place that we could all afford, would meet our particular budgetary requirements. And then the WhatsApp group was called Family Gathering 2019. We had the experience. That's done now. And like the next day, Bradley changed the name of the group to All the Family Things. And we're still talking. I'm sharing my experience of Venice with this group, which I would never have done prior to that particular experience. So actually, sorry, Mum and Dad, I feel closer to my wife's family than I do to my own as a result of the shared experience that we had and the frequency of communication that's come as a consequence of that and that trip. So that's my own personal experience about the travel economy, the experience economy, and why it's important. I said I'd give some examples from other industries and what the experience economy might mean in other industries, what we might learn in travel. Retail's had a pretty hard time. You see lots of pictures about retail, and indeed people in our own industry who have a retail presence and how that's going hard for them. There are some lessons we can learn from retailers. So you have the migration from the high street, shift to digital. Brands like Toys R Us that people like me grew up with are now becoming case studies in business school documentation about digital disruption and how not to avoid it. I don't think that's entirely fair, or indeed the whole story about Toys R Us, but that's how it will play out. Someone who decided to not leap on board the shift to digital disruption and focus on experiences was this company. I'm standing right in front of the teddy bear. Build-A-Bear. Is everyone familiar with, show of hands, who's bought a bear from Build-A-Bear? So you're kind of familiar with this experience. So kids love teddy bears. In any language, you know, a hug doesn't need to be translated with a teddy bear. And they create an experience for a child to go into the store with their parents, carers, and invent a bear of their own from scratch. So initially, Build-A-Bear did very well in a retail market was declining. They did very well just from creating that experience. What happened around 2014-15 with Build-A-Bear was actually their target market had shifted. So prior to that, the children that were coming into the stores didn't have iPads and iPhones and weren't that switched on. And around 2015, they figured out that they needed to augment the not digital product with a set of digital products. So they got together with actually Samsung to make the in-store experience much more digital. So there was actually quite a big boost. So this is a experience-based retailer who did well against the trend, and then when they augmented an existing and good product with tech, they got another boost to them, another boost to their brand. The arch winner, in my opinion, Dean, hope you don't. Dean's a fan because I can see, is Red Bull. It's a kind of unique brand where millions of people get to experience the personality of that product online and through experiences. And the research around them and their investment in the experience economy says that the return on investment is in the order of 10 times what you'd get if it was just a digital-only strategy. So not a retailer, but someone who's just done a phenomenal thing about bringing their customers into the heart of their brand and identity through shared experiences, typically adrenaline-fueled, high-octane sports experiences. Another couple of examples are in the retail, more restaurant space, I'll give now, or both Japanese or Asian fusion food experiences. One which most of you have probably heard of, Benihana, and the other one, Inamo, which is a startup. If you haven't been to Benihana, go to Benihana. If you go to their website, it will say, building great memories. That's their thing, that's their mission, that's their purpose. It is an experience, a great foodie experience. I mean, it's not great food, but it's great fun. And the chef is an entertainer. You're at tables of 6+, and the chef will chop the food up, create this big flame experience, which is like a volcano, throw it, usually you'll catch it in your mouth, and they tell very good, well-scripted jokes and very, very well delivered. So you have a great experience when you go to Benihana. I've been there twice, once as a corporate event, and once I went with my wife, and we made friends with 4 other people who were just there as couples. Great experience. Inamo has taken that and augmented it with technology, which is kind of thematic for all the things that I'm talking about. You have on Inamo this interactive menu on your table. You also have an ability to play games either on your own or with others. So there are a couple of examples from the restaurant world. And another kind of third area where I would draw on, what is the experience economy? Why does it make a difference? Outside of travel, is the experience of running. When people used to go running 20 years ago, which is about the time I ran my only marathon, the London Marathon 20 years ago, you had to be pretty serious about running to make a serious commitment to it. And that's not to be dismissive of all the runners today, and those of you who went out this morning, I congratulate you. I wanted to be with you I was focused on thinking about this instead. But you had to be really serious about running, whereas today you have millions of people involved in parkrun. They have just created a phenomenal product and sense of community, which is digitally enabled. It started out as a kind of bushy park run, getting people together on a Saturday morning in, I think, 5 continents, hundreds of countries, millions of participants, to get together and just run. And just run in your own category, from the very serious to the not very serious at all, but I'd really like to get out and do something active on a Saturday morning. And have a great sense of community, as well as a shared experience, and do something which expresses who I really am. Disney, again, so I mentioned them earlier, have climbed on board this, very, very clever. They've got people running around their parks to share in the experience, another experience of the Magic Kingdom, wherever that might be. This is a medal that actually came from one of our consultants who went and had this experience. And like the Red Bull, you can live inside the brand of what it means to be Disney, because you're kind of wowed by the park, and you've got the endorphins that go with the running experience of having that. So they're the things outside of the travel industry where experiences have been brought in to augment the product, or indeed create a brand new product, which is driving growth, driving community, driving happiness, driving satisfaction. In travel itself, I'll only pick out a couple of examples because I know you're all experts here, but things which are appealing to me, 2 examples. One is Intrepid, the world's largest small group tours company. So Intrepid have done a couple of things. One is have a brand which is very, very grounded in sustainability, and I'll come back to that later. First, a very early mover in the kind of carbon neutral environment. By 2010, Intrepid were carbon neutral. They were the first people to ban live elephant tours. With the people on Twitter and WhatsApp and the kind of vast spread of veganism around the world is due to shared information, sometimes misinformation, but the communication and empathy around what it means to do good in the world. And companies like Intrepid have done fantastically well of respecting local communities. They've even set up their own philanthropic fund, which has spent, I think, $6 million reinvesting in their community in the time that they've been in existence. Another great example of the experience economy, and those of you who went to ITT this year would have already seen Amar Latif and Traveleyes. Traveleyes is essentially a travel company aimed at supporting the partially sighted and blind, as well as people with normal vision. But the interesting thing about it is, you have mixed groups of sighted and not sighted people, but the sighted people don't go there as the carers for the blind people. They go as their friends, as their associates, as their colleagues, and share an experience. And what a great way to actually have a terrific, memorable shared experience and do good at the same time and feel good about that experience. So there are 2 really, really strong examples. I said I'd point out the pitfalls that might come from all the digital enablement and the experience economy. So there are some ideals that are set up so people will try to have this Insta lifestyle. So we've all heard about people buying the stuff off of online stores, taking pictures of themselves, wearing it, then returning it to the stores and creating something of a fake experience. So you've got the iconic Leaning Tower shot, Leaning Tower pizza. People want to go along, have this picture taken of themselves. That's fun. You post it online, etc., etc. But a bit like your Disney moment, how do you create a positive narrative out of an experience which is actually a bit more like this in the moment? Well, the research has shown that actually having that in your personal history gives you an ability to positively reinterpret this, so it's still very, very popular. I think we could do a little bit more to make sure that these kind of experiences are increasingly unique and special, in addition to the reinterpretation of that particular event. And of course, Sustainability. I mean, it's hugely thematic. I've talked about Intrepid and their carbon neutral agenda and why that's important to everyone. And this is actually in almost certainly national consciousness, if not global consciousness, plastics and the impacts on the environment. I think in 2013, ABTA travel survey, 13% of respondents said they would prefer this travel company over that travel company if they had a good record on the environment and sustainability. Today, that's nearer 40%. So that's nearly 3 times as important in a 5-year period. So it's 36% in the latest survey. So think about the experience. I mean, clearly there is an opportunity in this that people like Intrepid, and they're not simply commercially exploiting it. Of course, they're doing well and making good money out of it, but actually they really believe in it because that's their purpose, which it gives us a great reason to be in business as well as a great reason to go on holiday and have a terrific travel experience. So, who are the winners in the experience economy, and what is it they are doing that we can learn from? I've talked about my particular favourite, Red Bull. Not that I consume it. But I do love what they've done with their brand. And I think what the winners are doing in the age that we've got, and we saw the early slides, the opening slides, is they're using data to really anticipate what people want right now. And they're using machine learning, and other people will talk about this in the next couple of days, to predict what people want. Actually, sometimes not just predict, but do a kind of Netflix nudge to suggest that you might want, because I know you so well, or Amazon. And they're also using the tools that come with having great analytic capability and great digital capability and great AI to provide some of that service itself. I mean, it's wonderfully efficient and indeed can be instrumental in a turnaround situation where you have to respond quickly to something that's gone wrong, because things do go wrong. And when they go wrong and you do a good job of it, loyalty goes up, the experience goes up, even if we know that actually people are going to tell a more positive story over time. If you do something good in the moment and it's fast, it's fantastic. Lemonade, who are a New York City insurance company in the Financial Times yesterday, had an insurance claim for a Canada Goose jacket. These are about $900, these jackets. It was paid out in 3 seconds using AI to execute the deal. So not only is that particularly good experience for the individual, and I liken it to service recovery in the travel industry because there's clearly a similarity, and clearly the tools and technology are available to us right now to be able to do it. But a massive cost reduction for the insurance company itself, an industry where 13% of their costs are consumed in handling claims. If they can use that to not only drive up customer satisfaction, but also reduce their operating cost, it's kind of a win-win. So there's going to be a lot more people talking a lot more about AI, and we're convinced at PA what we've seen our clients doing in order to drive that, so that the people that come to your company are able to tell a great story about what it is they did with you, and an even better story over time. Thank you.
Chris, thanks very much.
Thank you.